Do you think AI is going to potentially take your job? 5 years ago, OpenAI built an AI agent that played a simplified version of Dota against OG Esports, the best team in the world at the time. And the AI agent won.
And that is GG, game over. OpenAI taking the series 2-0.
And since then, AI has only been getting bigger and bigger.
AI, artificial intelligence.
To make sure AI is safe.
Your job to be automated.
The machines themselves might somehow take power.
AI will actually maybe make your life better.
And while OpenAI has retired its Dota 2 competitor, it's still safe to assume that AI has gotten even better in Dota, and it shows no sign of stopping anytime soon. So looking at AI in esports, should we be happy right now or scared that it's going to take over?
Essentially using an AI agent to play for you in online tournaments.
Wow. There is the one where a whole team of AI agent is playing, and there is one where you just have an AI sub.
So what are the positives and negatives to AI? Will it make competitions more exciting, or can it also cause problems?
It is going to affect the integrity of the scene.
So you're mainly concerned about like the unfair competitive advantage.
How we will handle it is going to be up to us.
Join me today to find out if AI will take over esports. AI has the potential to do a lot of good, but perhaps a lot of bad as well. And trust me, we'll get into all of this in just a bit.
At some point, you have to realize, is this too much?
But first, let's quickly explain how AI works in esports and how it can be used.
The best way to explain how AI works is to show the difference between the classic algorithm-based bots and the AI agents.
This is Jabs. He's one of the coaches for Team Liquid's Dota 2 team. He analyzes data every day to help the players. So he is exactly who we should be talking to about this.
So an algorithm-based bot will have instructions made by humans in order to do specific things. As an example, you could take a Dota game where if you're 30% HP, the bot is instructed to go to base in order to heal. But the problem is if there's an enemy hero there, it will just simply run into it and die.
In order to prevent this, you need to add another instruction on how to properly react in that situation. But then something else could happen. So you need to add another instruction, and another, and another. So I think you get the idea of just how much work this is.
The difference for an AI agent is that it will learn the game by playing it over and over and over again, learning the rules of the game by itself, and it will then realize that if it goes back to the base at 30% HP, it might run into an enemy hero and therefore has to do different things. And that is the powerful difference between algorithm-based bots and AI agents.
So to recap, algorithms strictly follow instructions provided by humans. They do what they are told, no matter the outcome. On the other hand, an AI agent adapts. It learns from playing and comes up with its own creative strategies. Oh, and here's another thing that's gonna blow your mind. So let's say you're playing 1 hour of Dota. In that same time, the OpenAI agent has played over 91,000 hours. That's why AI feels so powerful. It is very fast. It learns completely on its own how to react to certain situations. And in theory, it could come up with creative strategies that humans would never even consider. That sounds pretty powerful, right? So how are you looking to use AI in the future?
We're looking to use it in a lot of ways. I think the first thing will be to upgrade the SAP Esports Center. We use it right now, but we also want to make sure it works with AI in the future.
The SAP Esports Center, what exactly is that? What do you use it for?
So the SAP Esports Center is a tool that I use on a daily basis in order to prepare for official matches. It automates a lot of the stuff to prepare like warding, drafting, and matchups. Basically, it saves me a lot of hours every time I have to prepare for an opponent. And right now it works without AI in Dota, but we're trying to change that and make sure it gets a lot better with it.
So what could this even look like in the future?
So for that, we can look towards League of Legends, where we already use AI in the SAP Esports Center. And there are some great examples. They have features like the draft bot, which is a bot that pretends to be an opposing team. So you can draft against enemy teams without actually having to draft against them. Before, it would only give you suggestion for heroes, but with AI, it's possible to make it imitate opposing teams, looking for synergies between heroes and looking for more things than just win rate. And then we have a feature coming soon that's similar to ChatGPT, which allows you to ask very specific questions and get exact answers based on the data in the SAP Esports Center. And that will allow basically anyone in the team to get info out of it without any prior knowledge on how to use it.
I mean, that all sounds pretty exciting. You must be pretty pumped about the future, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this to get into Dota. Right now, most teams have 1 or 2 coaches and maybe an analyst. And with the tools from SAP, I already feel like I have an assistant myself. So when AI comes into the mix, it's going to feel like I have a full team of assistants that can help me with the things that I don't want to spend time on. And that's going to be great for me.
So you're telling me it's like hiring X amount of workers for X amount of days or months even, and it's all just going to be a single AI and it's doing it in just a few minutes.
Yeah, basically, that's the plan.
Wow. So yeah, this is already some wild stuff. But let's get into some hypotheticals and look into the future. AI has a lot of potential to do very cool things. And don't worry, we'll get there.
The time saving for analysts, outdrafts would happen less frequently.
But first, let's see if AI might also cause some problems in esports.
I think the risks for AI in Dota are mainly that it can become too powerful and be too time-saving, so it could figure out metas and OP heroes far too quickly.
Whoa, quick pause. Sounds like we're going to be getting into some really esports-specific terms here, so I'm going to explain them for you. OP heroes stands for overpowered heroes, the strongest characters to play in the game right now. And then there is meta, which actually stands for the most effective tactics available. Huh, I didn't even know that either. It basically refers to playing with the heroes/characters or weapons that give you the highest chance of winning the game at that moment. Okay, back to Jebs.
So it could figure out metas and OP heroes far too quickly, and it could also give you an edge over other people. Thinking about it that way, that would be probably the biggest risk.
Okay, so you can use AI to find OP heroes and identify new metas, thus gaining an advantage by doing so. How exactly is that a problem?
If you have that advantage of having someone or an algorithm to do this work for you, then you can use your time differently. And that's where I think one of the main issues with AI comes in, where a team that has access to these tools can process more data, more replays, more games, compared to a team that doesn't have these sort of tools available.
This is JJ, known in the online world as Pentmuckle. He is a well-respected Dota 2 observer and producer who is very into AI. He also founded a company specializing in in-game production and data services that aims to reimagine how esports can be broadcasted. So he is certainly someone we want to talk to about AI and esports. So you're mainly concerned about like the unfair competitive advantage that some more well-funded organizations may have than maybe the newer teams that are trying to make the come up.
In a way, yeah, I think what we have to realize is it's never fair, right? That's an illusion. When we have a team that can buy business class flights, they are more rested than the other team. And that's just inherently unfair. But at some point, you have to realize, is this enough or is this too much? If you have a strat that you know works because you processed 1,000 games, that's a different sort of advantage. But at the same time, you can never say, okay, this won them the game because Dota is too complex. So I can also not say, oh, this is going to be this big or that big. I think that's impossible, but it's definitely one more step how teams with the funds have another advantage over teams without the funds.
Those are some strong points from JJ, but how big of an advantage are we actually talking here?
I think it will depend from team to team, of course, but overall I'd say it will be considered quite the unfair advantage. For me, I'd say it is going to affect the integrity of the scene a little bit, and there will be discussions about this for sure in the future. How we will handle it is going to be up to us.
Don't worry, we'll get into how we can address this problem in a second, but I first want to see which other risks AI poses.
One big risk would be the aspect of cheating, essentially using an AI agent to play for you in online tournaments and it being impossible to notice that it's an AI because it's so similar to humans at that point.
Wait a minute, that sounds crazy, right? The fact that AI could actually be playing as substitutes in real tournaments? I want to hear what JJ has to say about this.
Well, I think there is different use cases of AI. Obviously, there's one that's the analytic part, and there is the one where a whole team of AI agent is playing, and there is one where you just have an AI sub. The AI sub is, I don't think, a big deal, because as we saw from agents playing before, an AI agent does not play like we do. It doesn't mesh, because it doesn't think. So I don't think the AI sub, the AI ringer, is going to be an issue. However, if you have a full team of AI agents playing, I can see that being a problem. However, at the same time,
let me stop JJ right there. So now we see how AI can potentially have a negative impact in esports. But there are also ways to prevent this. And that is what JJ is going to get into next.
However, at the same time, what we see time and time again, there is a cheat and there is a solution to the cheat, an anti-cheat. There is scripts and we can detect the scripts. There is someone having a very specific strat and then there is the anti-strat. There is an exploit, it gets patched. There's always a cat and mouse game every single time, and that's going to be the same for AI, because what we see from AI usage with LLMs.
An LLM, short for Large Language Model. For example, ChatGPT.
Just like we see in LLMs, if there is a student that hands in his homework and it looks a lot like an LLM wrote it, we're going to have tools to detect it. There is a massive advantage and a massive possibility for some form of cheating, and we will fix it. If you can build an agent that plays the game for you, you can also build an AI that actually understands that this is probably an agent, I'm not 100% sure, but 99%. And then someone human is going to look into it and be like, yeah, these guys play so weird. Let's take a look, and then they're going to get busted.
The best way to prevent an AI agent from playing in a tournament is to use an AI agent to detect it. So in the future, we'll hopefully have tools to detect AI players in Dota.
Well, now that we can be more hopeful that there won't be AI agents dominating online tournaments, let's see how we can address the problem that certain teams will have unfair advantages because they have superior AI analysis tools.
I think the best way to prevent it would be to give everyone access to it, essentially. The data, it's already public, but the AI tools, they're not. And I think if you would give everyone access, it would even the playing ground. A good example would be ChatGPT. Years ago, it was kind of hard to have access to these AI tools, and now everyone can just go on the website and ask it whatever you want.
ChatGPT is now one of the largest websites in the world by traffic.
Microsoft alone investing over $13 billion in OpenAI.
And I think if we had the same resource in Dota, it would help a lot of new teams and new players to get to the same point that top teams are and maybe create more competition.
I think what's going to happen when it comes to democratizing these sort of tools is the market. The free market is going to be there because there's going to be some startup and they are probably going to offer this pretty soon. I think it's just going to be something very natural, and it's going to happen much faster than people think.
So, it's not that easy to give a definitive answer on whether or not AI will have a negative impact on esports. It turns out to be much more complex. For all the ways that AI can be used harmfully, it can also be used to prevent just that. There's more than just the downsides of AI. Let's now shift our attention to how AI can be good for esports.
I think there's 4 points that for me are the positive aspects of AI in esports. First one being the time saving for analysts, for me specifically, because it gives you basically an assistant. It will save you so much time that you would usually have to spend on things that might not be as exciting, things like statistics and things like numbers. And you can focus more on working on creative strategies or working on interpersonal relationships and making sure the team chemistry is nice. Because a lot of the times, the human aspect is the most important part of the job. And when you have the opportunity to save time doing the things that are non-human things, then you can spend more time on building those relationships that truly matter. Another point would be, I think it could invent new interesting ways to play the game. We've seen it kind of when OpenAI played their 5-man Dota rosters against pro teams and casters a few years ago. And what was interesting about this is they would play in a much more even playing field. Of all 5 players had very similar net worth.
So traditionally in Dota, there are 5 positions with an unequal distribution of net worth, with position 1 receiving the most and position 5 receiving the least. However, the OpenAI competitor developed a strategy where all 5 positions received equal net worths. And this was something we had never seen before.
And they successfully pulled it off.
Game over, OpenAI taking the series 2-0.
Then the next thing would be if teams got better at drafting due to assistance from AI, outdrafts would happen less frequently.
Outdrafting, when one team picks the perfect heroes to counter the opponent's heroes. This can give an advantage that creates a very one-sided match. Viewers hate outdrafts because they are just so incredibly boring to watch. But I'm curious to see how Jabs feels about them.
And I think outdrafts are always very, let's just say, boring to watch because one team kind of just wins and everyone knows they're going to win after 5 to 10 minutes. And I think having more even drafts will just lead to more interesting games because most of the times any game that has a very even draft will go into the late game, and late game is where the real fun starts.
You're dropping lower and lower, but still alive, and the turn purifies him, but Mickey with a turnaround, and Insania, they got it all!
Can they finish
Get
the
the
job?
hell out of my base! Mickey got him again!
And then the last thing would be AI can basically help everyone. Let's say the resources are open, like we talked about before. It is able to help everyone to improve. It would just generally create higher quality, higher skill matchups. And I think those are always super fun to watch. I mean, when you think of the great games of Dota, it's always two very high-skilled teams that are just fighting for 60 minutes.
He's got to do it all here. Katomi throws out a few more stuns, but the spear, it connects. That's the connection for the kill.
Kiyotaka's in. He's going
Kiyotaka's
down.
in trouble. Kiyotaka, he's in. And with that, Liquid send us to a game 3.
The last minute belongs to Boxy.
And I think we could see more of that just simply due to everyone improving. So that's kind of what I am looking forward to in the future with AI.
So in the end, AI can be used for both good and bad. It could give teams advantages and even be used for cheating. But it can also be used to prevent these exact problems. And on the positive side, it could make games more interesting and it could help players get better. So how do we make sure that AI will progress in the way that we want it to? Or will it just inevitably take over esports?
I think AI will only take over esports if we let it. I think we'll have to make sure that we draw lines, that we set boundaries. Developers have to make sure that there are ways to detect any bad actors that use AI in a bad manner. And teams and organizations and companies like Valve will have to make sure that any resources that are used in a positive way are available for everyone. And I think if there are these set rules and set boundaries and ideas that everyone agrees on, then AI will not take over esports and it will become a healthy part of the scene. So I think there's a fine line that you can tread, but it is important that we remind ourselves why we are in esports in the first place, why we care about it.
So I don't think AI is going to take over esports realistically. We are going to use AI tools in an analytical capacity for sure, but it's going to take a team from 80% to 90% and not a team of heralds to TI.
Herald, lowest rank in Dota, also known as noobs.
That's just not going to happen. So humans still have to play the game. Humans still have to evaluate what these tools will spit out. But yeah, it definitely will help and it's going to be used widely for sure.
So it's up to us to see how and where we want to use AI, to dictate what we want it to do and what we don't want it to do. Do you think AI is going to potentially take your job?
I do not think AI will take my job in the future. I think my job is mostly based on human connection, and I think that is something AI cannot replace at all. It will make my life easier. I think it will change my job. I think it will save me time. I think it will teach me new things, and I think it will have an influence on my life. But as for my job, I don't think it can replace my human self.
Well, there you have it. We obviously couldn't cover every aspect of AI in esports, but let's bring it back to the main question of the video. Will AI take over esports? How exactly AI is going to impact esports is hard to say right now. It'll undoubtedly change the landscape, but it will not take over esports. It's hard to imagine a world where two equally skilled AI are just playing against each other over and over again. But let's see what Jabs has to say about this.
I think it could be fun, to watch them a few times, but very quickly it would become more and more of the same. And you're just kind of wondering, what am I even watching here? No one is actually playing this game. You are simply looking at nothing.
It's like looking at nothing. And that's because the human factor will always be important. We love esports because it's humans playing against other humans. We love to cheer on our favorite teams, chant the name of our favorite player, and see their emotions on stage. We like it because it's humans and not computers or artificial intelligence. I think JJ summarizes this perfectly.
I would never want to watch an AI team play against another AI team. That's what's horrible. I have no relation to a computer. I'm not a computer, I'm a human. I want to relate to a human. So why would I ever do that? That sounds boring and horrible. I want to see emotion and I want to be able to relate. And I can't do this with a computer. So at the end of the day, what I want to watch is esports that shows me emotions of a human, because they win, because they lose, because they play.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your International 2024 champions, Team Liquid!
Thank you all for watching this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. This video is brought to you guys by SAP, so big thanks to them.